Hi everyone, I'm Karyn Thomas with Helium 10 and I'm here for a product roundtable introducing our super cool new product called Alta. So we have some very handsome guests here that I want to introduce to you today. We've got Bradley Sutton. He's the Director of Training at Helium 10 and the host of the Serious Sellers podcast. Bradley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just delightful, thank you.
I'm so glad. Welcome, welcome. And we've got Gjeldum. He is the VP of Product. He's a super genius. How are you doing today, John?
Hey, Karyn. Thanks for having me here.
Great to have you. Welcome. And then we've got the one and only Tim Jordan. He is the host of the AM/PM podcast, and he's actually the Chief Growth Officer at SellersFunding. And he's actually the mastermind behind this really cool idea of Alta. And he kind of started with this idea and kind of grew it from the beginning. So Tim, can you tell me, why Alta, why this platform? It's kind of unrelated to, a lot of the other Helium 10 tools.
Yeah, but first I'd like to point out that I'm excited to finally know how to pronounce John's last name. I have seen that name a million times and never heard how to properly pronounce it. So it's like the biggest victory of my day.
Yes.
But Alta started out with a conversation that I had over a year ago with Manny Coates. And he and I were talking about, what sellers need to grow, like what tools sellers need in their toolbox at their disposal. And what are some of the things that are the most complex for sellers to understand, but could potentially be remedied with a fairly simple solution. And a lot of those product ideas or those problems, I should say, those pain points revolved around the money side of a business. And for me, that was always one of my biggest weaknesses is understanding how to, from utilize capital to manage currency conversion flows to international payments. Like those things always gave me massive migraines. And at the time I was working with SellersFunding and knew they had some pretty cool solutions over there. And the whole idea kind of spawned into how do we create a unique platform with essentially the products of multiple services in the industry right now, but on one platform that's never been done before. So that's kind of how the idea got started, and some people a lot smarter than me figured out how to pull it off.
That's really cool, Tim. Yeah, can you tell us more about, some of your favorite tools within Alta?
Mine, I love the supplier payment, and I love the credit limit. I love having, access to, flexible funding. And I'm sure you'll ask some more questions about that, so I don't dive too deep into it. But off the top of my head, those are two of my favorites.
That's
and I think Karyn, as Tim mentioned, there's this whole space of financial products and tools that a lot of sellers may not know about, but are definitely problems that they have, whether that's access to capital or getting payments from Amazon more quickly, or paying their suppliers or different vendors that they work with. And at Helium 10, we're constantly thinking about how do we serve all of a seller's needs, and we've traditionally had a lot of different software tools, and this kind of bridges that gap between us offering some software type tools, but also meeting the needs from a financial perspective for our sort of existing Helium 10 sellers. So I think it just builds out that tool suite that we have and try to meet the needs of sellers anywhere they have problems.
Yeah, we've always had like different mottos that we've used at Helium 10, whether it's, we help sellers rise to the top, or we help you level up, or things like that. And especially we're most known to be an all-in-one suite. But we've never really wanted to just limit ourselves to, we're great at keyword analytics or product research. Hey, those are important aspects of the Amazon journey, but for any business, even if you're not on Amazon, financial aspects of it are just as important, in some situations even more. So it's just a natural progression of, our main goal is to help Amazon sellers and other e-commerce sellers. Well, hey, keyword research, product research, this is all great, but if they can't fund it, they're not going to be able to buy a product. If they can't get a VAT in Europe, well, they're never going to be able to sell in Europe. So it's just really natural for us to try and integrate these kind of services to help our customers.
That's really well said. For me, I know one of my pain points in the past as an Amazon seller is, it is kind of capital intensive. You have to make some big orders. And, there's been times where I was like so strapped for cash that I had to wait till I got paid from Amazon. And so I ran out of inventory. I was at least 2 weeks further out when I could have, hopefully had some of the payments that were there sitting in my seller account, but I had to wait. So can you tell me about that solution of daily payments and how they work, Tim and John?
John, you want to tackle that first?
Yeah, I think at the very basic level, Karyn, like you said, sometimes the way that Amazon pays sellers it doesn't fit in with the needs of their business. And sometimes getting paid every 2 weeks or depends on how quickly those funds come to your bank, they don't match with your actual cash flow needs of your business. And so daily advance, daily payments allows you to start getting much more frequent payments, daily payments based upon your previous day's sales, which, sort of match up with, how you're actually receiving money. And so this is a really cool new solution for sellers to start getting their funds quicker and then reinvest in their business more quickly.
And I'll be the first to admit that the first time I heard of this idea of daily payments, I thought, man, what a scam. Like this is a payday advance loan. Like this is some kind of shisty thing. And when I started learning more about how cash flow affects your business, and I started looking at my Amazon businesses, even with private label, like Karyn said, if I had to wait an additional 2 extra weeks before I could place those orders, or what if I am wholesaling or arbitraging and I'm trying not to load up credit cards, I'm just trying to flip that money. Mm-hmm. Well, there's an opportunity cost that you can suffer from. If I can go out and buy more inventory, put more inventory back into my machine, essentially, I make more money than the small amount that's charged. Now, when I was putting this kind of product idea together, one thing I said was that the daily advance, there is a fee there. It's a small fee. I think the smallest in the industry by far, in fact. And, we have to make some money on that for those difficult transactions and managing it. But what I said is we want to make this so affordable that people feel like they can't afford not to use this, because they will have so much more gain from, that opportunity. And, it should completely outweigh any sort of, hassle getting it set up or a fee associated with it.
Yeah. And that's also, Tim, I like that point. You talked about just the different types of sellers, and, there's private label, there's, arbitrage, wholesale, and this can be used by all those different sellers. And they each have unique needs. And so everyone can choose whether or not this is the right product for them. But it does allow people in the right situations to invest more quickly in their business. And I think that's what everyone's looking for, is how do I grow faster?
Yeah. And with that daily advance, to be honest, I've seen people that are brand new sellers use it. I see multi-million-dollar a month sellers use it. So it's not a beginning. It's not an advanced. It's applicable to a lot of people. And what's really cool about the Alta daily advance is we can do it overseas. So if you're a seller that's living in Australia and you're doing online arbitrage, or you're doing wholesale or private label on Amazon US, we can do daily advance to you as well. You have to set up our digital wallet, which we'll talk about a little bit later, to make sure those funds can be transferred. But it's kind of industry first. We're the only one that I know of in the world that can do daily advances cross-border.
Wow, that is seriously so cool. It gets me really excited because, I don't know, I'm kind of a control freak. And so I feel like it kind of gives some more control back to the seller. I mean, even like I've had times with Amazon, like holding my paycheck for like a month. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I'm like, I don't know, I've had like 45,000 just tied up waiting. I'm like, I need the money to invest. So this is really cool. I'm excited about it. So Tim, can you tell me about like the credit limit and how this is unique in the industry and how it works with Alta?
Well, I want to hear what Bradley thinks. Bradley actually was one of the first users to sign up for our platform. Bradley, what did you think that was, interesting or unique, not having an understanding of the kind of the idea of the credit limit first? And then Karyn, I definitely want to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out really well for me. The reason why I like it, a lot of people are familiar with Amazon lending, and probably that would be the first thing that they compare it to, like, hey, why do I need this? And the drawback with Amazon lending, and I've used that probably like 3 times before, is, they kind of pick, what you qualify for, but then you may not need all that money. Like, maybe they qualify you for 20,000. You got to take that 20,000 out. Well, guess what? What if you only needed 5,000 at the time? And that's how it works. When you do when you guys make a PO for let's say an order from China, you usually got to put 30% down, and maybe 6 to 8 weeks later, then you do the rest of the 70%. But with Amazon lending, it's like, this is how much we're giving you, and this is how much you got to take out, and then now you're starting to get that interest charge from that day. So the cool difference with the credit line from Alta was I qualified for $30,000. I didn't need $30,000, so I didn't have to pay for it. I just needed $5,000 to put as a down payment for this case study I was doing. So I just took out, I drew 5,000. So I'm only paying interest on that 5,000. It was like a separate line right there. And then now I've got that 25,000 on deck. Like if I needed now when I need to pay the rest of it, which is going to be $10,000, then now I can just go ahead and take another separate thing out there. So I thought that flexibility was really, really cool.
That's
Yeah.
so
And
cool. Wow.
so a lot of the other loan services, capital lending services in the industry have stopped lending. And, it has to do with the COVID situation. It has to do with, just kind of the environment of economics right now, and banks getting a little bit more skittish. And, through Alta, we're actually increasing our limit amounts. We've talked about, $1 million limits. We actually are able now on case-by-case basis to go up to $5 million limits, which is unheard of. And our interest rates are actually lowering, because the more that we're able to lend and the more other banking facilities see our opportunity as one that they want to get involved with, invest in, our costs go down. So we can actually lower the interest rates, which is cool. But one thing that I love, I love what Bradley said about being able to pull out just what you need when you need it. That's super, super important. The first Amazon loan I ever took was like $252,000. And we took it, and I sat on it for like a month before I did anything with any of it, and then it was small payments. But the other thing is cool is the qualification. If I walked into a bank right now and said, I have an Amazon business, I need a line of credit, they would probably laugh me out of their lobby. Banks don't understand this.
Right.
With the credit limit from Alta, the qualification is based primarily on your marketplace sales. So the first thing that's looked at is how much you're selling, how's your Amazon store doing, how are your reviews, what's your inventory look like. Make sure that through kind of this very unique qualification process that we have, that we see your potential for growth. You only have to have 6 months of sales history to get a review. You can actually stack marketplaces. So we have people who qualify for $50,000 based on our Amazon store sales. We'll talk to them and they'll say, oh, but I also sell on the Canada marketplace that I didn't connect. I sell on Shopify and I sell on Walmart. And we can look at that and say, okay, well, based on that, now you're eligible for $200,000. But if they went to a regular bank, it wouldn't be possible for them. And the coolest part about the ability to get lending through Alta is that you can cross borders. So we can give loans to people that are residents in other countries that are selling on specific marketplaces, whether it's the US, the UK. Coming up really soon, we have the Australia marketplace, all of EU. And that's interesting, because if you're an Australian living in Australia, selling private label, buying from China, selling in the US, you didn't have any options. Nobody wanted to give you loans. Even with the Goldman Sachs deal that was announced through Amazon, they're not lending to anybody overseas. More than half of the sellers on Amazon.com are overseas. It doesn't help them. But with Alta, we absolutely can do that, which makes us completely unique in the industry.
Yeah, and I think, Tim, we've touched upon this a little bit in the last product Daily Advance, but you brought up, some more good points of just hammering home this really interesting nature of Alta, is that these products are interconnected, and that's what really makes this sort of unique. And so we talked about Daily Advance, and that's sort of accelerating how fast you can get the funds that you already have or that you're selling. The credit line is now new capital that's coming in, and you also can start to receive that in your digital wallet, which we can talk about. But then we can go on to paying suppliers and all these other different things. And so all these different products are sort of playing together, which I think makes this really unique. And we talked about sort of the different types of sellers, and whether that's, private label, arbitrage, wholesale, or even the maturity of sellers. These types of products scale with your business. And so maybe you start out and you just started selling and you're, only been selling for 6 months, or maybe you've been selling for 5 years and you have, millions of dollars in sales. Like, that's really cool of how, the Alta credit line can, maybe get you 50,000 credit line, or it could be $1 million, or it could be, like you said, in a very specific cases for huge sellers can go potentially beyond that. But some really unique ways in which these products start working together and meet the needs, whatever the size and type of seller you are.
So cool, John. I love the innovation you're doing at Helium 10. It's really cool. It really has the needs of the sellers at mind always. And I love Bradley's clarity when he said, you take what you need. So you're not stuck with this huge chunk of money that you don't need maybe for a few months, and it's building interest. So you only take it as you need it. So that's very, very cool. So you touched a little bit, you got me curious on the digital wallet. Can you tell me more about the digital wallet? Have you used it, Bradley?
Yes. I mean, that's at the kind of like the base of almost all the different tools that are in Alta. So it was really easy to set up. And the amazing thing is you can have up to like 30, I believe it's 37 currencies. And when I was looking at those currencies, like there were some currencies I didn't even know existed. I was like, oh, cool. Like there was one from Bahrain or something. And I was like, what in the world? I was like, I mean, obviously they have money, but I didn't know what it was called. How many can you, like Turkish lira, the euro, the British pound. And then now I'm kind of like, okay, what else is there? But there are so many different ones for people to use. And the important thing, this kind of ties into, supplier pay, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, is people don't realize, hey, us here in the United States, yeah, we use dollars, but we're dealing with factories in India, we're dealing with factories in China. Maybe we've got a VA in the Philippines or in Bangladesh or just different places, and it's like, hey, people don't want to always have to deal in dollars, but with digital wallet, you can have a section where you can have the currency ready for them to go into that supplier pay, where you can pay them in their own currency. And a lot of times when that happens, when you're able to do that, they'll give you a discount because they don't have to worry about their foreign exchange fees and different things like that. So the digital wallet is kind of the hub. That's where my daily payouts, which I did on one of my case study accounts, that's going into the digital wallet. The marketplace payout, soon I'm going to be setting it up for when I open up Project X for Amazon UK. That's where it's going to come, and it's just really, really convenient to have all of that just in one place. And then now I'm able to use all the other Alta tools.
And you talked about those 37 currencies. I envision, if you did actually want to have all those different types of currencies in some sort of bank account, you would have to open up almost 37 different bank accounts in different sort of countries and business, entities and all sorts of, really difficult things. And so it's, I say to Tim, it's on the personal side, you could sort of equate this to like a Venmo account for a personal, account, but this is this digital wallet that allows you to start accepting funds for your business in many different jurisdictions, different types of currencies, and ties into some of these products. Like Bradley said, hey, I could start getting my marketplace payouts into my wallet. I can, the credit line is in different currencies depending on where you sell. But just having that capability to hold currencies in one account is really powerful. And it also allows you to have that optionality to, hey, maybe I got paid in the UK and I want to keep that in British pounds for a while until I need to make some sort of supplier payment. If you were doing this with bank accounts, sometimes you would have to immediately exchange that into US dollars if you're in the US, pay extra conversion fees. So that can get expensive quickly. And so this allows you a lot of sort of financial flexibility.
I mean, we live in the e-commerce space. Like this is the future of commerce, right? And every time we wake up and we do something where the business is, it is cutting edge. It is technology based, whether we realize it or not. And the banking system has been slow to catch up. And the fintech space, the financial technology space, the digital currency space is growing like crazy.
Tim, did you just pick that word up? Fintech?
No, financial,
I've never heard that
financial technology. Financial
It's real.
technology. So
Okay, cool.
what we're able to do is use technology to make our lives easier. I remember maybe 2016, 2017, I was going to open up a bank account in Hong Kong just for the purpose of being able to transfer US dollars to Hong Kong dollars and RMB, basically do everything that is now on the Alta platform. I had to fly to China, met my business partner in Shanghai. We flew to Hong Kong. We went and we sat at a HSBC bank in a high rise for like 2 hours till we had our appointment, which was running late. And we went and we did this brutal interview. And I felt like I was, speaking to the CIA. They were digging in, and like, it was awful. We had to present all these documents. And 6 weeks later, they sent an email and said, "Oh, we don't think you're a good fit to open up this account to transfer Hong Kong dollars."
Are you serious?
I promise you, that's exactly what happened. And now you can open up an Alta account. You still have to, go through some process, make sure you're legitimate. Everything is regulated through regular financial, standards. And, there's laws that we have to follow. We have, attorneys on staff that make sure that things go smoothly and we're not, laundering money for, the mafia or anything. But essentially you sign up, it takes a couple days, generally you get approved, and that's it. And then you can transact in any of those currencies, and not just 37 currencies, but transact within like over 200 countries, right? Like, the world has changed. Like, fintech is taking over and it's making our lives easier. So we'll talk more about, I'm sure, the products here in a moment that we specifically use digital wallet for, but digital wallet is a pretty powerful thing in and of itself.
I love the imagery of that. I'm a very visual person, so I kind of just imagine this like super like fancy wallet that has all these like slots of, this is my wallet for Germany, this is my wallet for the UK.
Well, apparently you haven't looked at the product yet, Karyn, because that's literally exactly what it looks like.
That's hilarious and kind of embarrassing. So I guess we're on the same page because you did what I had in my mind. So thank you. So yeah, tell me more about the capabilities. You mentioned briefly like paying your suppliers. So tell me how that works, Tim.
Yeah, so the first time I ever made a large payment to China, I was in China on a Monday, looked at this order. I told them, I want this. It was some machinery that I was shipping to Africa, right? Said, I want this. I want to package this Friday. They said, send the wire. I had to call back to the States in the middle of the night, so day here. My business partners had to drive to a bank, get their thumbprints scanned, have invoices, all this crazy stuff. They initiated the wire transfer. And once that money leaves your account, it's gone. Like, there's no calling it back. Yeah. It's gone. So the hope was that the funds would arrive to this supplier's bank account by Friday morning, and I could get the machinery loaded up and take it to the port. For 4 nights, like literally laying in bed. It was a big 6-figure order of money that wasn't even mine. It was like a pre-purchase for a client. Just sweated in bed, just scared to death. What if we got one account number wrong? What if it disappears? What if the bank screw up? Or what if I'm buying this from the Chinese mafia and they just tell me, sorry, your funds didn't show up? I wouldn't know. Like, it was terrifying.
Yeah, there's no protection.
Yeah, there's no information, there's nothing. So what's interesting about like the supplier pay is you don't have to go through these normal banking systems. You don't have to go down to the bank and print out your invoices and all that stuff. It's all done within the platform. And like we were saying, you can pay into multiple currencies and into over 200 countries basically from your laptop computer, which is unheard of. When you think about like the life cycle of banking, even digital banking, this is a very new thing. And then what Bradley was talking about with being able to pay in local currencies, I just did a presentation a few days ago for the Elite webinar, and I showed a screenshot with my old business partner in China. Like, this is a buddy of mine, right? And I basically said, how much do you fluff up your invoices when you give me a quote in US dollars? And it was like 4.5%. The average is 5%. Now, this isn't your suppliers ripping you off. What this is if you send a payment from the US or your US account to a US dollar account in China, they can't do anything with those dollars. They can't pay their employees. They can't pay for raw materials. They can't pay their light bill. They have to convert it to local currency, RMB. Their banks are expensive, and their banks are usually charging them 3, 4, 5% for that conversion from USD to RMB. So what I figured out about a year ago is, hey, if I can send my USD, convert it to RMB, and it lands at the factory, I can negotiate that invoice number down. So on average, we're able to save 3, 4% kind of minimum when we're able to negotiate that. And it takes a little finagling because a lot of these suppliers haven't even heard of this. But I have like coaching students that have been successfully doing that now for 6 or 8 months. And we do have to charge a fee for that conversion. It starts at 1%. It goes down from from that based on volume. And, we'll kind of look at your account specifically and give you a rate, which is cool because there's other influencers in the space I've talked to recently that are charging or getting charged 2 or 3% for these fees. We start at 1 and go down from there.
Wow.
One of these guys that was getting charged 2.5%, we negotiated him, his rates down to I don't want to give the numbers, but significantly less than 1% even. And with the amount of volume that he purchases in China, it's going to save him about $120,000 a year just to use a simpler system to pay his suppliers than going down to the traditional bank.
Yeah, and being able to, you're talking about that sort of like centralized platform is you have, maybe you're traditionally a US seller and you have, thousands of dollars in your digital wallet now, but now you can send that into suppliers in China, suppliers in India, all different types of countries in different currencies. And you can go right from USD to RMB or INR, euros, 37 different currencies that like we talked about. But, I know during the Meganar, we were talking about this supplier pay functionality, and when people talking about, Australian dollars, New Zealand dollars, like those are supported. For the most part, any sort of currency you can kind of think of, you can convert right from your digital wallet, all within the same platform, and you can see that sort of transaction history. It's a very nice way to see where your payments are going. You can even receive funds into this digital wallet, like we talked about through Amazon. From Amazon, you could even have other people pay into your digital wallet as well. So it's a pretty powerful way to receive and then send funds with supplier pay.
And we talk about stacking things up. Traditionally, Bradley said he's going to open up, Project X account in the UK. Well, traditionally, his UK payments would, Amazon would convert those to US dollars and send them to Bradley's bank account. He's getting charged from Amazon's currency conversion service 4% on average. And we'll talk about that with the marketplace payouts here in a second. So the money's going from the UK to Bradley. Then Bradley would send that money back to China to buy more inventory. What's cool is when you combine like the digital wallet, marketplace payouts, and supplier pay, he can have those funds drop from his UK Amazon sales into GBP account in his digital wallet, and it just sits there, and there's no conversion fee. Like it just GBP to GBP payment. He can leave those funds sitting as long as he wants, and he can send that money straight to China, right? So instead of it going around the world and being hit with multiple conversions, he can just park it and send it, right? But when we stack up all these products in one platform, it's awesome. And, I'd be lying if I said some of these functionalities don't exist out there with some competitors to Alta, but they don't exist on one platform. We have people that are converting into the Alta system right now that are eliminating maybe 2 or 3 other services and just consolidating to one, which is really, really cool.
That's amazing. And obviously you're consolidating all the fees into one place, which is really cool. So your expenses go way down. So you had me really curious about the supplier pay and this friend who's saving up to $120,000 a year, which is crazy. That's nuts. I mean, think of how much product you can invest in just in the savings. That's great. So how would you do that, Tim? Like, do I just go to my supplier and say, hey, I want to pay you in RMB instead of US dollars, and they're automatically going to give me a discount, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say automatic because sometimes you have to negotiate. And there are a few occasions where Chinese suppliers would rather be paid in US dollars for various reasons. Maybe they're sending the money back out somewhere else. But typically what I do is I take an invoice to US dollars and I go back to them and I say, hey, if I pay this in RMB instead, I do the instant conversion and then I reduce it by about 5% and say, would you accept this? And frequently they say, sure, no problem. So I'm saving 5%. And sometimes I have to educate them because they say, why would you do this? We've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
And I have to say, well, times are changing. The fintech space is evolving. Like we can actually do these things now. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's automatic, but it's worth at least trying to negotiate that down because it can save you a ton of money. And if you do just pay in US dollars, that's simple. Like we can do a USD to USD wire. And remember how I said there was no tracking earlier on wire transfers?
Yeah.
We have free tracking and confirmation in Alta. So no matter which type of wire transfer I send, you get a confirmation when your supplier received those funds. Banks don't do that. So traditionally, you just had to wait for them to say, yeah, we got your payment. If they didn't, if they said it's lost, you have to wait 2 weeks, then open up a trace request to the bank, and the bank takes 2 or 3 weeks and charges you $80. No, we actually can get you a payment confirmation once that payment is received by your supplier. So even if you don't convert funds, if you just use it for a straight wire transfer within a currency, it's still way better than a traditional bank.
That's so cool. That's seriously so exciting for me. Bradley, have you used it to pay your supplier, and did you see savings?
Yeah, I've used it. It's funny. My I think part of the reason is because of this, but my supplier in China actually has their own U.S. bank. So like, they're probably tired of having to do all the transactions over there. So they actually went and got a U.S. bank, but I still use Supplier Pay for that. So it was real quick. Got there like in a day, and I could see the process. I could see when it was pending. I could see when it got in there. I had screenshots I was able to to show them that I had paid, and the actual payment, once I set up the payment, I mean it's like 3 or 4 clicks, and that was about it. Because once you set up a supplier or a payee in your Supplier Pay in Alta, then it's not like you have to go through the whole entire process and interview and stuff just to be able to send the money, like sometimes some banks require you to do. It was just, all right, let me find my supplier from the drop down, how much you want to send, what currency, boom, done. So it's really it's really good, especially since I've got the money from Amazon, the disbursements, which is the marketplace payouts, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Going there, I just immediately can send that money right to the supplier from that same digital wallet.
Wow, John, was that you that made this so easy to use and the great customer interface? Or how? I'm all about, you give me savings, you give me easy to use, and the control.
John will take credit for anything, so you gotta be careful.
Definitely all me for sure. No,
I give you major props for that.
I think it's obviously a whole team effort, and we've worked really closely with SellersFunding on building this platform, and we're trying to make it as easy to use as possible for customers and sellers. And I think that sort of expectation of being able to track and manage your funding and track and manage your suppliers is something that people have is a basic business need. And so we think that'll be super helpful for people as they start building out that portfolio list of people they pay frequently. They can just quickly select them from the drop down menu and send a new payment when needed. So
I love that. I love the visualization of just like, you actually see what's happening with your money instead of just like hoping and praying that it's going the right place. And I just love that. It's so exciting for me. So can you tell me, Tim, about this elusive marketplace payouts we've heard about, and who would use it and what it's for exactly?
Yeah, when I first started selling internationally, the first place I sold to was Canada. And I was taking my inventory from here. I set up a marketplace account in Canada. I was selling there. I was, getting paid in Canadian dollars in that market. And then every 2 weeks when they did my payment, they would convert it to US dollars for me. And I never figured out why it seemed like my sales weren't as profitable up there. Well, Amazon actually charges you about 4% as a currency conversion fee. They make a ton of money. Now, me as a US seller based in the US, the only time I'll ever run into this is if I'm selling into a different marketplace. But more than half of the sellers on Amazon.com are abroad. So there are hundreds of thousands of people that are needing Amazon to send their payments into their local accounts. And those that are using Amazon to do that, it's like 4%. It's crazy. So whether you're in, nearly any country, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada, Mexico, Singapore, it doesn't matter. If you're selling in the US, Amazon's going to charge you a lot of fees. So what we do with marketplace payouts is we want to give you a local currency account to have your funds deposited. And when like Amazon pays into your US currency account, it doesn't cost you anything. You've got your US dollar sitting there in your local currency account on Alta. You can do whatever you want to with it. But the other thing this allows you to do is actually open up an Amazon account, because to open up an Amazon account, if you're abroad, you have to have frequently these digital accounts, right? And what we did is we set up, this digital account system within this kind of master platform where you have all the functionality in one space to get those accounts open up, to pull your funds in, to add Supplier Pay, to do your daily payments, whatever it is. So me as, a typical gringo, in the US, selling in the US, I wasn't very familiar with this. But now that I'm understanding like the international ecosystem, whether I want to sell on the Australian platform or, the platform in the UK, whatever it is, I need it. But especially other clients that are internationally selling. And one thing that I get to do is I get to be kind of an advocate for sellers, like working with SellersFunding. I don't come from a financial background, but I get to speak up and say, hey guys, if we build this, it needs to make sense for sellers. And, you know, working with Helium 10, building the Alta platform, that was one thing that we were very, very particular about, was making this something that was beneficial, not just smoke and mirrors. You know, we're not just selling a dream. And one thing that we really struggled to do was keep our fees as low as possible. You know, we have operating costs, we have to pay, you know, transaction fees and things like that. But for our marketplace payouts, again, our fee starts at 1%. And then as you do larger volume, and especially when you start rolling in other products into one platform, it reduces our costs, we can get extremely competitive. And right now there are other competitors. There are other companies out there that have a similar thing to marketplace payouts standalone system. It's not in a big platform. And we are smoking their tails on pricing right now. Like every day, you know, we're talking to somebody who's paying 1.5%, 2%, and we're giving them quotes below 1% and getting them signed up. So I think that it's not just something necessary. I think we're doing an exceptionally good job of it as well.
Wow, that's so cool. You've got me so excited. So if I wanted to start using my own Alta account, is it going to take like 6 months? Like you talked about trying to get a bank account in Hong Kong. Like what is the process?
Well, don't ask Bradley, because he was one of our beta testers, and everything that could have gone wrong, it seemed like, you know, the scrutiny was on him. But I do think Bradley can kind of give an idea of the time frame.
Yeah, it was pretty, I mean, even despite the hiccups, you know, I had, it was still pretty fast, you know, and the cool thing was I did it from right where I'm sitting right now. You know, I never had to go into a bank. I never had to get on the phone with somebody. You know, when they did have questions on something, you know, it was handled through email, and I had all the documentation there. So it was just really, really convenient, and everything was, I think one of them, you know, I applied for like on a Friday, and by Monday I already had it. I forgot if it was the marketplace payouts or the daily payments. So pretty much everything in Alta, I've tested and tried to punch holes in it to make sure it's ready for everybody else. But I wasn't working on dummy data and things like that, you know. So like you guys, I don't know if it's available yet, but there's tons of training videos that you guys you know, are going to be able to see in Alta. All of that is my accounts, and that's real cash money. You know, like I didn't want to just like, hey, let me just make some plaything. I use actual accounts. I use the Project X accounts for one. I use another case study account for another. So every single thing that you guys are going to see in those videos, those are real live Amazon accounts. It's real live marketplace payout. It was a real supplier I paid, and everything so far I'm just really happy with. I mean, it's like it can be it's a game changer, you know, for some people. Like that 2 week, having to wait 2 weeks, you know, like, you know, for if you're a new seller, or, I mean, Karyn knows, Tim knows, you know, John might not know the struggle. He hasn't sold on Amazon before, but.
And it's not always 2 weeks. Sometimes it's longer. Sometimes it's held up for a month. What if an IP claim happens and you get hit? And, you know, I was once hit with an IP claim, and I had like $120,000 tied up for like 6 weeks. With daily payouts, I could have been getting that. And it's an insurance policy essentially.
Yep.
So I mean, all of this is stuff that we have to deal with, and it's kind of like it's less headaches, and so it's real cool so far.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Bradley talked about that. You know, the examples that he's working through, it's real dollars, it's real experiences, but this is a new world for us, and we wanted to make sure that we had the right partner who has expertise in this area, and we're complying with financial regulations, and everything is super solid. And that's really why we did partner with SellersFunding, is they not only have that expertise with e-commerce sellers, but it's also complying with regulations, making sure everything is by the book, your money is safe, those types of things. And so we do have these application processes. We are checking, you know, knowing your client, and all these different rules that we have to follow to make sure that everything's safe and everything is compliant. But then again, to make it as easy as possible for sellers to take advantage of these products. And like Bradley said, hey, I'm sitting at home and I can get set up with these accounts, these types of products very quickly and very smoothly. And we talked about marketplace payouts, but you know, many of our sellers are based in the US. We have many sellers international as well. But many people either wanting to start selling in the US, or they're wanting to start selling in the UK, eventually like Europe, different countries there. But this product of marketplace payouts allows you to start receiving funds in these new countries where you might have been, you know, you thought it was too onerous before, it was too hard, or you just weren't sure about it. This helps you get set up. You know, if I'm a US seller in the UK, much more quickly, I can take my Project X account and start selling in the UK where I didn't think I could do that before. So I think that's what's really cool about this interconnected platform and these types of products is it's helping people grow, helping people expand with these products.
I love that, faster and easier than ever too, which is so cool. Can you, I mean, you touched on this, John, can you tell me more about that? Like, I know for me, I was always a little bit intimidated to start selling in the UK and Germany, even though I know they're really good markets, just because of like all of the VAT requirements. Like, does Alta help navigate that crazy world of
so that's another, our sort of next product is VAT and GST services. And so another huge sort of complication for sellers where they are maybe not familiar with some of these new jurisdictions. You know, if you're just selling in the US, you may not be familiar with European value-added tax, or, you know, Canada has GST, which is similar. But, you know, there's all sorts of compliance and tax rules you have to follow. And so maybe you do start becoming excited. Hey, I want to start expanding to the UK with marketplace payouts. Well, eventually throughout the year, you'll have to start complying with VAT. And this type of VAT and GST service will help you sign up to work with a provider that will help you through that whole process. And whether that's just registration or filing, but you could even eventually pay for those types of taxes, even with our supplier pay functionality and supplier pay product within Alta. So it's kind of continuing that full service of, hey, I'm expanding to new marketplaces. I need to comply with different regulations. And I also need to make payments and other things. It's kind of that full service financial functionality, which is cool.
That's so cool. That's seriously such a game changer. So we only have a couple minutes left. I mean, Tim, is there anything else I need to know as someone that's wanting to get into this, that's going to help me make a decision or help me understand what this is going to do for my business?
Yeah, I think that one big thing to mention is that there are so many tools in here that it's hard to comprehend.
Yes.
And one thing that we can do is we can definitely walk you through them, you know, from like almost a custom point of view. You know, if you've got an interesting business scenario, let us help you figure out the best way to use these tools. Again, we've got other influencers, leaders in the industry that we've showed them stuff, you know, on the Alta platform they didn't know existed, and it's going to change their business, and they're multi-million-dollar year sellers. Brand new beginners, it doesn't matter. We've got kind of stuff for everybody. And the other thing is, you know, I kind of want to put this out there is, this is a internationally government regulated system. Like, there are rules, there are laws, there are requirements. We obviously can't give a line of credit to everybody. It doesn't happen. So there are some people that get, you know, revoked. We've had people that, you know, have applied for a credit limit with 0 sales history, you know, obviously can't help them. There are some things like that. So you just have a little patience, give us a little bit of time, because everything that we have to do is, you know, fairly manual and compliance heavy. We have to take a look at things. Even Bradley, you know, Bradley was asked to send additional documents opening up his digital wallet account to make sure he really is who he is. So just understand that this isn't like click a button, it's done. It takes a little time, but that there are real human beings looking at every single account. We're making sure that everything's set up correctly. We're making sure it's safe. And because we do all that on the front end, it makes it easy for you.
And also, it's a good point. In terms of just, you know, want to reiterate, there are a lot of products and a lot of solutions for sellers, but Alta does not mean that you have to use all of them. And just because you don't use the credit line doesn't mean you can't use Supplier Pay or use a digital wallet. You can apply and use specific products. And so if sellers want to test it out, they want to start, hey, I think the digital wallet would be really cool to start using and pay suppliers. Well, you can go and apply for that and start using that piece. And maybe later on, you do have a big shipment or inventory purchase that you need to make, and you're saying, hey, some extra capital might make sense for me. You know, at that point, you could apply for the credit line, and maybe you start to use it. And then even like Bradley said, maybe you get approved for 50,000 and you only want to use 5,000. There's a lot of flexibility here. So people can kind of take it as they need and use the products that are right for them.
Wow, that's so cool. This is seriously so exciting. I really feel like this is totally changing the face of the game for e-commerce sellers, especially on Amazon, because working capital is important. So I love that it's giving more accessibility to people from around the world to not only, you know, access it quicker from their Amazon accounts, but to pay people easier and to save on fees, to obviously help them grow their business, to increase their profitability, and to just have access to capital when they need it. So thank you all so much for joining me today and answering questions and sharing your knowledge. This has been super exciting. Tim, if people want to get started, where can they go today to apply?
Growwithalta.com. That's the right URL, isn't it, John?
That is it.
Growwithalta.com. We've got more information on there. We've got FAQs. We've got all sorts of stuff. Bradley is constantly shooting videos that we're uploading to the platform. We're putting in the Helium 10 knowledge base. We're putting out lots more content, hacks, tricks, tips, strategies for using the different tools. So stay kind of in the loop on what's going on. And we're improving the platform constantly. Just a few days ago, I was on a meeting with the head of Amazon Australia, and we're getting Alta tied into the Australian marketplace, which is a growing one. And if you're not staying in the loop, you're not going to see announcements come out like that with increased capabilities. And this whole thing's a big snowball. You know, we just keep rolling things into this, and it's getting to be a pretty big train rolling down the tracks. But all of it is built specifically to, you know, help sellers across multiple marketplaces, not just Amazon. And the more that we can roll up into one platform, obviously the less expensive our fees get as well too, which is pretty powerful.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much, Tim, John, Bradley. It's always a pleasure. Y'all are so great. Thanks all for watching.
Thank
See
you.
you guys next time.
Take care.